Hey, it's Steve Peterson with Infinity Investments, and welcome to our channel where we talk about all things commercial and investment real estate, particularly best practices and strategies that investors and commercial real estate brokers are using in today's market. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the 3 keys to repurposing properties. Now, as you can all imagine, that with the COVID-19 pandemic, especially in a place like the Bay Area, property uses are going to be the demand for some are going to be falling off the map while the demand for other may be rising. And I think that we are going to be looking at a mass repurposing of properties in the very near future. Whereas, maybe a shopping mall may turn into apartment buildings, whereas a retail strip center may turn into, some sort of fulfillment center, if you will, for an online company. Office buildings may turn into apartments, SRO or hotels for sure will be turning into apartments. There's going to be a lot of money made in the repurposing of a lot of these properties. Okay, so there's 3 things I want to talk to you guys about that are very, very important if you're thinking about buying a property, rezoning it, and make a lot of money. Number 1 is to identify what uses are going to be COVID-proof and are going to thrive in a post-COVID world. Whatever that post-COVID means, I don't really know right now, but we know we are in this pandemic and it's going to be affecting us at least for several years in the future. So then what uses are in demand right now? I can give you an example. In the Bay Area, Oakland, industrial properties are in heavy demand. Really, I think probably that's going to be the case across the country. So industrial properties are in demand. Multifamily properties in some areas are not in demand. Some areas very much so in demand, depending on kind of where you are. In San Francisco, multifamilies is not in, it's probably the lowest amount of demand on apartments in San Francisco in the recent few decades, right? So the point is you need to figure out what zoning or what property use is popular and COVID-proof in your market, right? And that's going to be a little bit different. You got to get your feet to the street. You got to do some research. You got to see what properties are actually still operating during this time, what properties are thriving. You ever go to or drive out, like for instance, Trader Joe's out here, you got a line back. You go to Trader Joe's, you got to stand in a line that wraps around the building, not typically because they're distancing. But the bottom line is people still going to Trader Joe's, right? Whereas you go by the movie theater, ain't no line at all, right? So maybe some of those movie theaters might be changing to something else. The key is to figure out what is in demand today. And what is in demand in your area. So what's in demand in one area is probably totally going to be different in another area. All right, so figure that out, number 1. Number 2 is to really evaluate the rezoning potential, because to do that, you got to go through the jurisdiction here in the city of Oakland. You got to go through the city of Oakland. If it's in San Francisco, the city of San Francisco. Okay, if it's an unincorporated area, that's that county. There's going to be a governing board, a body in the government that's going to make some decisions about, okay, we are going to allow the zoning to go from office to apartments, right? So you want to do some research at the zoning department. That could be tough right now because a lot of them are hard to deal with during COVID, and you're not going to know, by the way, 100% that you can get this done probably before you close escrow. Now, a lot of investors and developers particularly will make long escrows or option periods in their deals so that they can find that out for sure. All right, but sometimes you got to do a lot of due diligence on this and have a really good idea based on your homework. So you're not just shooting from the hip. You've done some homework that, yes, this can be turned into the ideal use that I want, which is its highest and best use. I therefore have to do X, Y, Z. Okay, so you want to know what that XYZ is. You want to know what that XYZ costs. You want to know how long that's going to take, which, by the way, everything's taking longer now. Just general construction permits in Oakland is taking longer. So rezoning probably definitely going to take longer. So you got to account for that up front and calculate that into what you're doing. Very, very important. I think this is going to be a big wave. So these are just some basic ideas. But what happens when there's something popular is that people just rush into it. And I was working one deal before, and we thought the property was already rezoned for the next use, and we come to find out doing our due diligence, no, it was still the old use. So that brings me to point number 3, which is make your offer based on the existing use, not the future use that you're trying to rezone it to, right? Because, getting an example, we were looking at a property and it needed some work and it needed to be completely renovated. But we're thinking that the zoning part, the plan, at least that's what was presented to us, that was done, right? And so that we can come in and buy that property, and all we got to do is just pay the fees and we're but that wasn't the case, right? So that would affect the price that we will pay. All right, that if we're gonna go through all the gymnastics and the hard heavy lifting of changing the zoning, we have to economically benefit from that activity. Meaning that I have to pay for what the property currently is today, and then create the value by going through the rezoning process. Which, if you do it, you create a lot of value. I think it's not real estate 101 because a lot of people don't do it, but that's one of the oldest, best ways to make a lot of money in real estate is to repurpose it. I think we're going to see a lot of people repurposing properties in the very near future. But I just want you guys to consider these three things. What's the COVID-proof use in your area? Okay, evaluate the real live rezoning potential so that you're just not making the decision based on what everybody else is rushing into. And then number 3, pay the price for the existing zoning, not the future zoning, and make sure that price is less so that you can create the value and reap the benefit of the equity that you have created in that process. I hope this helps. If it does, like, subscribe. If it don't, tell me I'm crazy. But let's have this dialogue because I think there's a lot of money to be made in repurposing. I say a lot of money to be made, but I think really there's a lot of problems to be solved. And then money, wealth, cash flow will be generated off those problems being solved by repurposing property for its highest and best use. If you agree, let me know your thoughts. If you don't, let me know your thoughts. Let's talk about this. Best of success in your investing career. Peace out.